Hey guys, it's Adam aka Swimming Bird, and welcome back to Minecraft 1.7 Survival Story. In this series, we're journeying through an amplified 1.7 world, and I'm taking some of your story suggestions and going with it. Last time, we had the story of Leroy the Farmer, the magical talking onion, and his Dolphyongle. But this time, we've got a new one. So the top suggestion was this one by Juan Coprada. It's the story about a white Enderman who can't teleport. So we're going to do that. Last time we found this roofed forest here, and this is crazy. Like, I think I actually like this a lot better than where I was going to build my base. So I think we're going to live up there, but I have to get up there first. So I built a ton of ladders. Hopefully this will be enough. I have some more wood just in case. But today's journey is going to be to get to the top of that hill, where I think that's actually where I'm going to set my base up. And later I can journey back and get Crankles and my skeletal horse and all that stuff and bring them over here. But for now, I think this is going to be really cool to look at this waterfall. This is crazy. But anyways, now that it's starting to get dark, let's start our story. So this is about Sven, the white Enderman. Now he was born in the end, like all Endermen, and things were simple. Like, people were a little confused when he was born. A lot of them were like, maybe we shouldn't be living on the end stone because it seems like maybe that turned him white or something. Like, there's all these whispered rumors. But his parents were like, you know, it's okay. We're going to raise him as a normal, you know, dragon-fearing Enderman. And he's going to do, you know, what normal Endermen do. So they tried to give him a normal life, but he was a bit of an outcast. A lot of the Endermen would play their Enderman games, and they wouldn't let Sven join in. They're like, we're going to go pick dirt blocks. And they had a bunch of different blocks in the end at that time. It wasn't just endstone, but they had stuff like dirt and things, and they would play games where they would stack the dirt in different piles. They would take it and just like seemingly leave it around randomly as a prank, and people would be like, who did this? Who left this dirt block on my doorstep? And they'd be like, hee hee, and they'd laugh about it, even though it was really stupid. But that's what Enderman did. They didn't have much to do in the end. But Sven really wanted to be a normal Enderman, so he would try to join in on these games, and the normal Enderman kids would just teleport away, the Ender kids. They would be like, see you, Sven, and they teleport away, and Sven's like, why can't I teleport like the others? And he would get really sad about it. But Sven had some other abilities that, you know, were a little odd for an Enderman. For one, the one time he did actually let him play the stock and blockin' is what they would call it, the game where they stack the blocks. They let him play one time, and they're like, alright, I guess you can play. And when he did play, Sven did something no one had ever heard of. He picked up a piece of endstone, and he stacked it. And people were like, what the heck, man? You can't do that. That's against the rules. And the other Enderman, one of the big jock Enderman, Tyler, he was all like, I can do it. So he tried to pick up a piece of endstone, but it didn't work. And he was like, what the heck? It was like a sword in the stone type of situation. And people were like, why can Sven pick up endstone and none of us can? And so basically whispers went around, and eventually the dragon caught word of this, and he was like, what is going on? Who said you could pick that up? He flew down. Usually the dragon would just kind of fly aimlessly over his land and, you know, watch after the Endermen and make sure they didn't do anything bad. But this time he was furious. He came up to Sven and he said, who told you could do that? And he got mad, and he would have breathed fire, but he couldn't, and he didn't want anyone to know that, so he was like, don't make me breathe fire on you. But he couldn't, so, you know, he kept up the lie. But anyways, he was super mad about this situation. He was like, what the heck? Who told you could do this? Basically, so his verdict was Sven is banished. And people were like, what the heck? Where's he gonna go? There's no place but the end. The end is the only thing. And the dragon said, I know of a place. It's called the Overworld. And he sent Sven there to live, and Sven was like, oh man, I'm lonely here. But he was kicked out of the end. The dragon basically ran into him and cast him into the void. And Sven fell through, and he fell and fell, and then next thing he knew, he woke up, and he was in what the dragon called the Overworld. And this place was way better than the end. It had trees, it had mountains, it had all this cool stuff. And Sven was like, this is, I mean, despite being lonely, this is actually a lot better. It seems like more Endermen should come here. But they were very afraid. They had no idea what the Overworld was. They'd only heard whispered legends. So no one else wanted to come there. Plus, Sven's there, so now they're like, ugh, he made it stupid. because he's a stupid, whoa, white Enderman. But the only thing that Sven was worried about were there were tons of monsters everywhere in the overworld, and it was very scary. He didn't know what to do, so he kind of hid his first night there, and he just learned how to survive. He ducked out of the way for a while, but eventually he learned that he could pick up different blocks and use them to do things like he would make a sword. He made that out of a few sticks and things, and that was enough for him to get by. He made a sword, and it was enough for him to fight the monsters off and hopefully survive, even though things were not looking good for Sven for a while there. He learned what food was, because the Enderman normally wouldn't eat anything, and he basically survived for a while, but he was like, I don't know about this place. It seems cool, but there's not much I mean, it's a lot of wildlife, but there's not much going on. So Sven decided, I'm going to do something about this. And first he journeyed. He journeyed and journeyed, and he found these weird people with big noses, and he said, who are you guys? What are you doing? And the big nose people said, we're called villagers, but we don't have a village, so our name is kind of ironic. And we can't do anything out here because we have no place to hide. The zombies that run around just try to kill us all the time, so we're kind of afraid, and this isn't a very good situation for us. Oh no. And Sven said that was, oh no, that's bad. So he kind of decided, I'm gonna think about this for a little bit, and I'll help you guys. So Sven got a lot of wood. He used a lot of the same color wood. Like, this was back when Sven wasn't very good at building things, but he built them a village, and he said, here, take these crops, like the Indians to the Pilgrims. He taught them how to, you know, plant wheat. Eventually he taught them about how to plant carrots and potatoes, and he basically showed the villagers how to hide in houses at night when the zombies came along. So he thought that was pretty cool. He helped them, and oh, get out of there. He said, when the villager fell in the well, he said, get out of there. I'm sorry, I designed that pretty badly, and it's basically so if you fall in, you're stuck. But the villagers were like, this is still pretty cool. And Sven said I could make it better, and the villagers were like, no, 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 this is cool. That's fine. And so that's how it was. They had their little village, and they were happy with it. So Sven moved on. He went to the desert, and he found more villagers without villages, so he built them a desert village out of the sand that was there. And he was like, you know what, I want to do something a little bit more creatively fulfilling. So Sven decided that he was going to build a temple in the desert. And he built a huge monument. It was pretty cool. He used a little bit of wool and stuff. And people were like, that doesn't really seem to fit with the desert very well. But he did it anyways, and he thought it looked like good enough. Sven didn't really have that great of a design sense, but it was still cool. People were grateful because there were no structures in the world originally. And now they had structures, so they were like, okay, this is cool. Beggars can't be choosers. And he built that, and the villagers came to him and said, we have treasures, and they put those in there. And Sven was like, so what are we gonna do with these? Why are we just leaving treasures inside of this this place? And the villagers were like, I guess we could make traps. So they built traps there, and that was like a way to keep people from stealing the treasures. It was a little weird. It was like self-serving. They were like, who's gonna even get these anyways? But oh well. So they built that, and then Sven said, all right, I'm done with the desert. It's a little samey for me. He journeyed on. He found a jungle, and there were little cats there, and he was like, you guys are cute. So he decided to hang out there for a while, and he found that the cats kept the creepers away. So he felt like the monsters weren't as scary in the jungle, even though it was darker there. So he hung out with the ocelots and cats and stuff, and he decided to build another temple there. And he was like, this one's going to be a bit more interesting. It's going to have some traps in it, because he had learned from the villagers that you have to protect your treasure or someone will steal it, although he had never seen somebody other than the villagers. And the villagers couldn't really build things or do anything on their own because they constantly crossed their arms. They just decided that they weren't going to do anything like that. So he built this jungle temple, as you could call it, and he put a trap there and decided this is pretty cool, but again, it's a little self-serving, like, who's gonna see this? I guess I built it, and it's cool, and it's a good exercise in and of itself, but I don't know what else to do, so he moved on. And he said he found an ocean, eventually, and he was like, this is cool, there's not much here, but I like the water part. So on top of the ocean, he stacked a ton of sand, like days and days, he kept stacking sand. And one time, the sand actually collapsed on him, and he died. But then when he woke up, he was back in the end, and the other Endermen were like, "Whoa, who is this guy?" And Sven was like, "It's me, Sven. Remember the white Enderman that can't teleport? I came here. You know, I was banished." And the Endermen were like, "You don't look like Sven." Sven was a lot taller, and Sven, at this time, he was like, "What the heck?" So he hit F5 and he looked in third person, and he had a bunch of arrows in him for whatever reason. But he looked at himself and he was a lot shorter, and because he had been out in the sun so much traveling, his skin was a lot darker. So it was a little confusing for him. He was like, "What the heck? This isn't how I look." And it was a little bit scary and shocking for him. So anyways, Sven decided that, whoa, I guess I don't, I'm barely an Enderman anymore, apparently. So he decided, all right, I'm not going to stay here, even though people are like, now they're interested in me, now that I don't look like them. They're like, who is this guy? But I'm just going to jump into the void. So he did, and he went back to the Overworld, where he was more comfortable now. So there he went, and he decided, okay, I'm going to keep stacking sand. I'm not going to suffocate this time, because that was bad, even though I guess I don't die, apparently. But he decided that he was going to work on that structure. He built the sand, and he built a ton of sand, and eventually, once he had an area above the water, he started to build a stone area, and he was like, I don't like the way that this cobbly stone looks. I'm going to start using a different type of stone. So he cooked some of his cobblestone, and then he put a bunch together, and he was like, okay, look at these. This is pretty cool. Bricks. So he had a bunch of stone bricks, and he was like, this isn't enough variety. I'm going to leave some out with some water on it, and then let it get kind of mossy and gross like I did with the jungle temple. And I'm going to kind of throw some off of a cliff so that it cracks, and then use that variety. And he came up with all these new structures and different blocks and things to use to build his new area. And he was like, this is getting good. This is going to be my home. So he built this giant stronghold, if you could call it, on top of the sand. And he was pretty happy with this. He thought, okay, this is good. This is where I'm gonna live. So he decided that is what, this is good. This is where I'm living. He kept repeating it to himself, but unfortunately, the Ender Dragon decided that he wanted Sven gone. He was like, he's putting weird ideas in the other Endermen's heads. So the Ender Dragon decided he would fly into the void and use his powers to go to the Overworld. So when he got to the Overworld, he saw Sven's structure, and he was like, oh no, we're not having this. So he flew through the structure, and he basically destroyed all the sand underneath, and the stronghold sunk into the water. And Sven was like, no, I worked on that for like hours. And the Enderman, or the Ender Dragon was like, dude, get something else to do with your life if you're spending so much time on this stuff. So he was really sad, and the Ender Dragon destroyed that whole area. And he said, you know what, I'm a magical dragon, and because of your hubris, and you decided to do all this stuff, without my permission, I just banished you here. I thought you were going to die, but you decided to learn how to do stuff, and that pisses me off because I'm a dragon, I'm a jerk. So he said, Sven, I am going to erase all of your memories of your time here, and you're not going to remember that you did any of these things. And you're just, you can try again, and hopefully you'll die, and you'll die for real this time. So he erased Sven's memory. He set him out, he picked him up, and he left him in the middle of the, in the middle of the woods without any memory or anything, and Sven was very confused. And by this time, Sven looked very different from how he looked. And the dragon said, your name's Steve now. You're not Sven anymore. Sven was a hero to the Endermen, but you're going to hate the Endermen. You're going to find them wandering around, and they're going to get through the portal that you built in your home to try to get back to the end. And they're gonna, he forgot to mention that part, but he did build a portal inside of his home that would allow him to go home and see his parents. But the dragon was like, man, I'm gonna break this portal so no one can use it. And you're gonna hate your friends. You're gonna be like, I do not like these guys. So basically, the Ender Dragon was just kind of a major jerk. He kind of sets Sven or Steve up to hate his people and to be very different from them, because that's how the dragon saw him. He didn't see him as an Enderman anymore. So Sven/Steve decided, well, I don't know what's going on because he had lost all his memories. And he woke up after the dragon left him there, and he had nothing to his name, and there was nothing going on. Like, he was like, what the heck? Where am I? What is this world? And he saw a tree, and he went up to the tree, and he punched it. And that's a whole nother story. I don't want to get into that. I feel like that's a whole, you know, that's another story that has to be told. The legend of yeah. Okay, so anyways, thank you guys for watching. I did a little bit of monster fighting, clearing out. Sorry if this was kind of a weird episode, because I was just basically trying to clear out this area and light it up until daytime. And I think I'm going to build my base right here among the roofed trees. How high up are we? 225. Okay, I got a good 25 or so blocks I can build. This looks good. This is going to be my base, so eventually we'll come back here, we'll get Crankles and all that stuff. So thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment suggesting the next story idea, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, and thanks again for Juan for suggesting that, and for you guys for liking it so that it was the one that was at the top. And I'll see you guys next time for more Minecraft Survival Story. Goodbye.